Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is Yahuda Ben Yisrael. Again, for those of you who don't know, it's Old Testament Law TV. And what I do is I talk about the law, statutes, commandments, and judgments. You know, my goal is to teach brothers and sisters to be nation builders, and move away from looking like a religion with a bunch of different denominations, which is what we look like now. What I'm going to talk about in this video, I'm going to talk about assault. This is something that is a part of our justice system. When I say assault, I mean physical assault, emotional assault, verbal assault, plain old assault, because we have a justice system, we have an economic system, we have different types of systems that make us into a nation of people. But what I'm going to focus on now is rape, because there's this rumor going around that it's okay to rape a woman, and once you rape a woman, she actually becomes your wife. What I'm going to do is read the scripture where people think that that's what that says, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit on that scripture, and then I'm going to go into the ones that actually involve assault or rape. It is Deuteronomy 22 verse 28, and it says, if a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he hath humbled her. He may not put her away all his days. Now, this is why it's important to get the King James Version of the Bible, because if you read in some of the newer versions of the Bible, or the newer interpretations put out by Christian theologians who have no idea what they're talking about, and I don't mind telling them that to their faces, because I know the law, statutes, commandments, and judgments. If you read in verse 28, Deuteronomy 28, it says, if a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, where it says, and lay hold on her, in the newer versions of the Bible, it actually says rape. Which is stupid. But that's what a lot of them do. Stupid things. And they don't know any better. We know that. Sometimes they do, most of the time they don't. But what's important to realize here is that there are a lot of things that says lie with in the law. Some of y'all call it the Torah, it's called the law, statutes, commandments, and judgments. But there's a lot of things regarding lying with somebody, and that's what it means. It means lying with somebody. They didn't have to sleep together. I think people need to get that through their heads. When it says lying with, that's what it means. Those people have no business lying with each other in any way, shape, or form. They're not married with each other. They don't have their business lying with each other. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the scripture is very clear that if they are found lying with each other and they are not married, then they should get married. There are other scriptures that say this, and I talked about this in my previous video in how to make a woman responsible for her sexual behavior, or how to make a woman responsible for her behavior. In one of my other videos, I talked about the same thing. There's a lot of lying whips in this scripture. Nobody's supposed to be lying with anybody unless it's a husband and a wife. Period. But just in case, for those of you who think that this means sexual behavior, this is still consensual sex. Okay? I'm going to now read to you and get into actual assault, which is what this whole video is about. And I'll probably end up making a part 2 to this. It's probably going to be kind of long, but about 18 minutes, 20 minutes. But I'm going to get into actual assault, or actually rape. And it's Deuteronomy 22, verse 25 through 27. Let's begin. But if a man find a betrothed damsel in the field, betrothed means married, and the man force her and lie with her, then the man only that lay with her shall die. Now, like I said, there's a lot of lying with in the scripture. So, and it does that for a reason. Because nobody has any business lying with someone unless it's their husband or their wife. So let's say that a man did lie with a betrothed damsel, and like the scripture said, only the man that lay with her should die. But listen what it says next. And this is Deuteronomy 22 verse 26. But unto the damsel thou shalt do nothing. But unto the damsel thou shalt do nothing. There is in the damsel no sin worthy of death. Listen closely. For as when a man riseth against his neighbor and slayeth him, even so is this manner. Verse 27, for he found her in the field, and the betrothed damsel cried, and there was none to save her. So, to those people out there, including some Hebrew Israelites out there, who think that it's okay for, or who think that if a man forcibly has sex with a woman, which is what rape is, that he's supposed to marry her all of a sudden, is garbage. It's garbage. Whether she's married, excuse me, whether she's married or if she's not married. If he forced her, if he actually forced her, and she fights back, first of all, there are going to be scratches, there are going to be scars, they're going to be, and if she fought back, which is what she should be taught to do, if she fights back, there are going to be scratches, there are going to be scars, there are going to be bruises, and I'm going to get into that when I go further into assault on this video. It's against the law, and it's considered rape, and let me read something that's very interesting. Verse 26, but unto the damsel thou shalt do nothing. There is in the damsel no sin worthy of death, which is very different from what you hear around the world in certain, especially Muslim countries, where if a woman is raped, they actually blame her. But not in our law, statutes, commandments, and judgments, the Hebrew Israelites. For as when a man riseth against his neighbor and slayeth him, even so is this matter. So it's the same as murder. To actually force a woman to lie with you or to rape a woman is akin to murder in the law. Now, imagine this situation. A woman is raped, forcibly raped. She's ashamed. She's scared. And some dude shows up or is found out, and all of a sudden this dude's like, well, yeah, I got to marry your daughter. And this is your daughter. He comes to you as a father, says, yeah, I have to marry your daughter now. Now, if anybody comes to my daughter after they raped her and she's crying and she's scratched up and she's bruised up, you know, he better run to one of those Levitical cities of refuge, because I'm going to kill him, because just like the scripture said, for as when a man rises against his neighbor and slayeth him, even so is this manner. Same as murder. So whenever you hear any type of, because you hear this from a lot of theologians, including the black community, or Jake community, whatever you want to call it, you'll know that these people have no idea what they're talking about. They're dummies. I don't care how many theology degrees they have. I don't care how many members are in their congregation. They're idiots when it comes to the law, statutes, commandments, and judgments, and they need to stay in their lane. Now I'm going to get into other assaults in the scripture, and these are other assaults too that people love to misquote. And you'll recognize it when I say it, because I'm going to repeat what they say. And again, these are people who usually will tell you they don't read the Old Testament, they don't have anything to do with the Old Testament, or they deal with the moral parts of the Old Testament, whatever that means, or the law was done away with and now they just got Jesus and faith and that's all they need to believe in is Jesus. This is what they usually say, the same people now. Now I'm going to start with Exodus 21 and 22. If men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follow, he shall surely be punished according as a woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. Verse 23, and if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, strike for strike. And then Leviticus 24 and 19 and 20. And if a man cause a blemish in his neighbor as he hath done, so shall it be done to him. Breach for breach, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, as he hath caused a blemish in a man, so shall it be done to him again. Now, what you'll hear, most of these individuals saying, and it tripped me out because I heard a theologian / civil rights leader say it. He said, if we all lived according to the laws of the Bible, we all be blind with no teeth. Now look at what I just read. It's impossible. First of all, 90% of the people out there have never been into a fight, okay? And those of us who have been in multiple fights know that very rarely does anybody lose an eye, let alone a tooth. It can't be done. I've seen somebody lose a tooth before. But I've never seen, but I've heard of somebody losing an eye on the news. But I've never heard of anybody losing a foot, arm. Let's see. Yeah. Hand for hand, foot for foot. No, I've never heard anybody losing that. So when you hear people say, I don't care how intelligent they are, I don't care how many degrees they have, I don't care what school they went to, I don't care how large their congregation is, when you hear them say, if we lived according to the laws in the Bible, we all have no hands and no feet and no eyes and no teeth, whatever type of mess comes out of their mouth, you'll know that these individuals have no idea what they're talking about. They don't have a clue. Okay. I'm going to read now Exodus 21 and verse 26. And let me say Exodus 21 and verse 22 through 25 is really about abortion. But I'm going to read Exodus 21 and verse 26 now. And if a man smite the eye of his servant or the eye of his maid, and that it perish, he shall let him go for his eye's sake. And if he smite out his manservant's tooth or his maidservant's tooth, he shall let him go free for his tooth's sake. Now it's interesting because they darn sure didn't do that with us in slavery, now did they? This is another one of those things that they didn't tell us about in slavery. You know, they can knock out our tooth. They didn't have to let us go. They kept us. But that, of course, is a whole nother conversation. I'm going to get into the rest of the physical assaults that are in the law. Exodus 21 and verse 15. And he that smiteth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. Exodus 21, 18 through 19. And if men strive together, and one smite another with a stone or with his fist, and he die not, but keepeth his bed. If he rise again and walk abroad upon his staff, then shall he that smote him be quiet, only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. So you got to pay for damages. Exodus 21 and 20 through 21. And if a man smite his servant or his maid with a rod, and he die under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Now what that means is, when it says surely be punished, we have a system where we have judges and priests who pass judgments. So whatever they determine at the time for the punishment to be at that time, then that's what the punishment will be. Verse 21, Exodus 21, verse 21. Notwithstanding, if he continue a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his money. And last of the physical assaults is Deuteronomy 25. Well, not last, but Deuteronomy 25, 11 and 12. When men strive together one with another, and the wife of one draweth near for to deliver her husband out of the hand of him that smiteth him, and putteth forth her hand, and taketh him by the secrets. Verse 12. Then thou shalt cut off her hand, thine eye shall not pity her. So sisters, don't grab for the stones. In Leviticus 19, this is sort of a self type of physical assault here. Leviticus 19, 27 through 28. You shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shalt thou bar the corners of thy beard. You shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I am the Lord. Whew. How many of us do that one? Now, what I'm going to get into next, and I thought I might split these up, I probably won't. I'm going to get into next verbal assault, and I'm going to start with Exodus 21 and 17. And he that curseth his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. Now, cursing the scriptures is really hoping for ill will on a person. You know, hoping somebody dies, or hoping your parents gets hit. Hoping a person's parents gets hit by a bus or something like that, or loses their job. That's even a curse too. Another verbal assault is Leviticus 20 and verse 9. For everyone that curses his father or his mother shall surely be put to death. He hath cursed his father or mother, his blood shall be upon him. Leviticus 23 and 1. Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. Now I'm going to stop right there. And some of you who are into the New Testament, you remember reading the story about Christ. The story where people use the scripture for he who is not sin, throw the first stone, because they believe the law that says the law has been done away with. This is another example. Like I said, assault is filled with these examples. Our laws regarding assault are filled with examples where people just take the scripture and twist it up. People who will tell you to your face that they don't even read the Old Testament, They don't even deal with the law. I'm going to read it again. Leviticus 23 verse 1. Thou shalt not raise a false report, put not thy hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. When they dragged that woman in front of Christ and said she was an adulteress and she was caught in the act, Christ said to them, he who has not sinned, throw the first stone. He wrote in the sand, he said, he amongst you that has not sinned, throw the first stone. They were ashamed for what they had done. And then they walked off. And then Christ looked up and he said to the effect of, none of your accusers are, any of your accusers, or none of your accusers convicted you. Now, people who don't know the law, that phrase went right over their heads. This is what he was talking about. Thou shalt not raise a false report, Leviticus 23 and 1. Thou shalt not raise a false report, put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. See, in Hebrew Israelite law, only the witnesses can convict somebody of a crime. Not a bunch of accusers. It doesn't work like that. It takes two witnesses to convict somebody of a crime in Israelite law. Not accusers. They can't do anything. So none of those men were witnesses. That's why they walked off. That's why they were ashamed. And I'm going to read another verbal assault. What this is slander. We call it today slander. That's what they did to that woman. They slandered her and then grabbed her. Leviticus 23 and verse 12. And you shall not swear by my name falsely, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy God. I am the Lord. Leviticus 23 and verse 16. Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people, neither shalt thou stand against the blood of thy neighbor. I am the Adonai. This is something else that they did. Oh, and them and whoever the other man was that revved them up to grab that woman. They were talebearers. Nobody was a witness. They should have left that woman alone. But they were so caught up in trying to be vigilantes that they had just threw the law in the garbage can. That's what they did. They threw the law in the garbage can, grabbed that lady. Nobody was a witness. Her, and in the Hebrew Israelite community, we know about this. They heard this and heard that. And confronted somebody and they for what they heard. Now I'm going to go into what is basically emotional assault. And I just finished talking about what we call today slander. And in all the videos, you'll notice that I will try to put this in terms that you can understand today. I just finished talking about slander. Before it was assault and battery. Now I'm going to talk about emotional assault. And that's Exodus 22, verse 21. And it says, thou shalt not vex a stranger nor oppress him, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. Verse 22. And verse 21 through 24. You shall not afflict any widow or fatherless child. If thou afflict them in any wise, and they cry at all unto me, I will surely hear their cry. And my wrath shall wax hot, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives will be widows, and your children fatherless. Now, that's interesting. Thou shalt not vex a stranger nor oppress him. Now, we have laws where, in statutes, commandments, and judgments, where the strangers basically are not allowed to rule over us in any way, shape, or form. They can't operate within our healthcare system as far as working on other Israelites. Our healing of the Israelites is not allowed. They're not allowed into the temple, which is our body. Our in the Torah, some of y'all call it Torah in the Old Testament. They're not allowed into the testimony, the tabernacle. So they just aren't allowed in our body. Now, at the same time, it says here we can't vex them or oppress them. So it's almost like they have a form of civil rights. Now, some brothers and sisters just got mad about what I said. Some little hardcore super Israelites, I know y'all just got angry. But look at what it says. And there's a reason for that. And I'm going to get into it when we get into our economic system and when we get into employment, our employment laws. Because they're there for us to get rich off of them. I don't mean no harm, but that's what they're there for. They're there for them to be able to live a nice, happy life so they can make us money. You know, that's part of the program. It also says you should not afflict any widow or fatherless child. Now, that's something we do every day now, especially the fatherless children. We just afflict them like it's nobody's business. We lock them up in prison left and right at this point. In this country that we live in now. Now, I'm going to go to Leviticus 19 and verse 14. It says, "Thou shalt not curse the deaf, nor put a stumbling block before the blind, but shalt fear thy God. I am the Lord." Now, we call that disability law today in 2013. You know, no, we can't discriminate against people with disabilities. Verse 17, Leviticus 19 and 17. "Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him." Wow. What's interesting about these is, imagine if you're in court. Most of us have looked at something like a Judge Judy or Judge Mathis or Judge Joe Brown, and we hear people doing these things. Hating thy brother in thy heart, rebuking thy neighbor, suffer sin upon him. That's against the law. So if we're in a Hebrew Israelite courtroom and we start talking about this person did that and this person did that, and we're in a little small claims court or what have you, the judge can say, well, wait a minute, you broke the law. He can hold that against us. The judges, can hold that against us and charge us with a crime and either fine us or whatever judgment they want to see fit. Not anything serious. Nobody's going to get stoned or something like this. It's a fine or something like some counseling to deal with their emotional issues. But, that's interesting to me because that could be held against us. Leviticus 19 and 18. "Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." Again, I am the Adonai. Again, we go back into things that can be held against us when we start opening up our mouths in front of those judges and those priests. They can take all that into account. Did we bear grudge? Did we try to revenge? Leviticus 23 and 4. "If thou meet thine enemy's ox or his ass going astray, thou shalt surely bring it back to him again." That's 4 through 5. "If thou see the ass of him that hateth thee lying under his burden and wouldest forbear to help him, thou shalt surely help with him." In 2013, that means if you see your enemy stranded on the side of the road with a flat tire and you kept on riding and then help him change the tire, he can be held against you. Y'all end up in court one day and your enemy say, "He rolled by me. I know he don't like me because he rolled by me. He saw me with a flat tire on the side of the road. He kept on going." Guess what? The judge can say, "Is that right?" Well, Your Honor, I was so mad, Your Honor. Boom. Leviticus 23 and 6. "Thou shalt not rest the judgment of thy poor in his cause." I'm going to deal with the poor a lot, and it's a good thing that I've gone through the things that I've gone through, what I like to call the Yahweh beat down. Those of us who go through this word and get serious about it, you know what I'm talking about. Because when you become poor and then come out of being poor, you begin to understand this word a lot more. Leviticus 23 and verse 9. "Also thou shalt not oppress a stranger, for ye know the heart of a stranger, seeing you were strangers in the land of Egypt." And I just finished talking about that. How the strangers basically have some civil rights. And I know, like I said, I know a lot of brothers and sisters can't stand to hear that. Y'all just hate Esau, even though you're not supposed to. You hate the Gentiles, you hate everybody else, but yeah, they have sort of like civil rights within our system. Because we want them to be profitable so that we are profitable. Because of the law, they can never rule over us. And like I said, that's what I like to call emotional assault. But we have these types of assaults. These are within our system. They're there for a reason. They're there to maintain peace. And profitability for our brothers and our sisters and for our children and our children's children, for us to build a healthy, prosperous nation. Now, I hope you all got something out of this. I hope you all learned something from this video. I'm going to go into, and this is really a part of our justice system. This is the first video that deals with our justice system, and I'm going to continue to deal with our justice system from here on out and go into the economic system as well. Hope y'all got something out of it. Email address is oldtestamentlaw@gmail.com. Hit me up if you have any questions. Subscribe to the channel. And put some comments down there. I don't get a lot of comments. I get looks, I get thumbs up, because I know that most brothers and sisters don't read the law. A lot of y'all just don't know the law. I know this. I've been in this word 16 years. I know what time it is. But feel free to talk to me about it, because my goal is for Hebrew Israelites to learn how to be nation builders and to be nation builders. Stop being scared, stop being jealous, and to be nation builders. Stop worrying about what everybody else is doing out here in this world, and to be nation builders. That's my goal. Shalom.